Alrighty. Cindy, good to see you. Feel like we haven't seen you on a live in a minute. I hate soul suckers. So today's an open discussion on Abby and Libby's case. I'm sure there's a lot that you guys would like to go over, especially after Tom's discussion with Andy and Jennifer. But one of the big things that came up was the sticks. So we can talk about anything, but I think that that's where we're going to start. I think people are just prone to this Lord of the Rings fantasy about what happened to Abby and Libby. The human mind is a very interesting thing. Good to see you. I hate soul suckers. Cindy flexing on them. Definitely using steroids. They're not going to let you into the Olympics. That's for sure. Not after the drug testing. Thanks, Cindy. Thanks for that tip. Appreciate that. Thank you for your continued support. So, like I said, you guys, open discussion today. We can talk about anything, but we're going to start with the sticks. Okay, so I have just some kind of dummies kind of laying out here in the woods, nothing too descript. All right, this one's even a man, so I think they're both men. That's where I got the outline, so. So I'll do my best to explain the way I see it. Now, this image right here is actually part of the right. This was something that was arrested, which is kind of just a basic description of what was seen out there. Right, we see the blood over here. This is the F tree. This isn't the exact placement. This is just somewhere where the crime scene was over here. But I wanted everybody to be able to see exactly the direction that the girls were facing because it's a part of what he did. Yeah, I appreciate that, Cindy. Have you had the unfortunate opportunity to see the actual photos? I haven't, thankfully. Yeah, photos on the YouTube channel. So unfortunately, yeah, I did see them. Chat right here. Let's see if that helps. It's yeah, we'll see if we can get it worked out. Maybe one of the girls left the PlayStation on. Yes, no, maybe so. What you're seeing here is the garbage of size, shape, and everything. What's going on, She Warrior? Ever want to see the pics? I don't think it's necessary. I can't imagine loved ones' photos floating around out there. Yeah, when crimes like this happen, it it just continues to echo. You know, in, um, all for the blast, which is the murder of Abby and Libby. You all the cancer and stuff that can, with the Chernobyl event. No, what? No, it's still doing it, or no, it stopped. What's up, Miss Dog Lover? I don't understand the idea that someone plugged in phone. The way I understand Jennifer that somehow they phone the girls. So I don't know if that's possible. I wonder if it's possible that the phone registered to around a.m. Just because it was glitched, right? Why not? Why didn't you just to the idea that yeah, water got into the phone, caused some type of a glitch, and therefore the phone was traveling around, maybe property or were abducted elsewhere. So why they keep chasing down that narrative when there's an. What's up, Kelly? It's doing it. Yeah, let me see if I can figure it out. Yeah, like something was connected. My wife says she found it. So hopefully it's working now. Hopefully you guys can hear me and I don't. They refer to it as Charlie Brown. Dog lover. We'll be fine. It's not that big of a deal. It's a live event. You know, it might suck for the replay crew, but we'll figure it out. Oh, well, that sucks. It is what it is. Maybe I'll reset my Wi-Fi real quick. All right, now can you guys hear me at all? All right, you can hear me? Thank you. All right, it should be good to go now. I mean, I reset everything. If it's not, then I got a bigger problem. Clarissa, what's up? Clarissa, Patty, Paul Ayers, She Warrior, Cindy, Miss Dog Lover, and I Hate Soul Suckers. And Kellyo. Can you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth? All right. Hopefully you can hear me. Let me share my screen again. Let me know if it happens when I share the screen. Okay, so this is a good representation for a few good reasons because it gives you the exact idea of how the sticks were laid on top of the girls. Remember, Turco didn't have a chance to see this. You know, this isn't what they showed him. They just showed him some lines. Let me see if I can find the bar was kind of thrown around. Okay.
If they look like something to you or look like they're randomly placed. I have spoken to many investigators who were on the scene.
Okay, so if Turco was looking at something like this, he's going to be like, oh, wow. He's going to be like, interesting. Like, yeah, definitely. Especially if, when they show him the other one, right? The one that looks like an asterisk. So Turco didn't have the opportunity to actually see this, right? So as you notice, they're not symmetrical. They're not crossed at the center like an asterisk would be. In reality, he has them crossing near the wound of where Abby would be. She would have been struck somewhere over here. So all three of them cross right there in that area. But the biggest stick runs across the entirety of Abby's body on her right side. Or excuse me, her left side. Right? The largest stick that Richard Allen placed on Abby runs across her body on her left side. Same thing goes with Libby. He put this large stick on her left side. Now, why would he choose to put the large stick on the left side of the girls? Why would he even do that? Well, he did it for the same reason that he dragged Libby's body. There's a drag mark right here. And this is obviously where she fell down. Right? Rick attacked her, chased her like some kind of villain in a horror movie. Jason Voorhees caught Libby right here at this tree. He attacked her. That's why you have this initial puddle here being presented to the jury. You have the handprint right here. Now, to sustain a wound like that, you have maybe 2 minutes to live. But immediately you're going to get woozy, right? You're going to start to you're going to get dizzy and you're going to feel like you're falling down. That's why you're going to touch the tree. Well, first you're going to touch the wound, right? See how they have her hands colored red here? That's representing blood. And then I think spotting like all across, maybe even on the arms, torso. Not sure if it goes all the way down to the feet, but definitely majority is on the hands and the neck area. Now, what are you going to do if you're struck in a major artery in your neck? I don't know about you, but I'm going to grab it. And I'm going to feel it to, is this real? Did you just do that? Then I'm going to, with both my hands, I'm going to try to cover it while at the same time trying to get away from my attacker. Now that's exactly what the crime scene tells us, right? I'm attacked over here, the furthest point. Become woozy. I'm about to stumble about 8 to 10 feet, landing right here. Well, Rick can't have that. Rick can't have you right here because there's a trail that kind of that goes through right here. It cuts along the creek and then goes back up towards Ron Logan right here. So he's going to need to get her from out in the open. And now remember, there's drag marks here. There's drag marks to here, right? Oh, they staged her body. Look, they put her arm up. No, he dragged her by her arm. I just want you to picture this sick, paranoid, sadistic person, which we know is Richard Allen. I want you to imagine him dragging somebody by their arm from here to there, behind the biggest tree that he can find out there. And what does he do? He puts it on her left side of her body. Now, why is he putting all the largest sticks on their left side? Why would he choose to do that? Well, he's putting the sticks between them and anybody that might walk into this area here, anybody who possibly might be able to see from the bridge, and anybody that might be able to see anything coming around this bend right here. Notice how all of the sticks are on that side between a possible view of them and themselves. Not only did he place this large tree between the girls and the creek, the private drive and the bridge, and not only that, but the trail that kind of comes up over here. Right? Large stick, left side. Huge. I mean, this looks like a whole fallen tree right here. This is like a tree trunk placed on Libby's left side after she was drugged behind a very large tree to conceal her. Right? Imagine if Turco would have seen this. He would have been like, yeah, well, obviously. But when he saw a representation, which was um, symmetrical, it was misleading, right? If anybody sees a shape of an asterisk, which is crossing perfectly in the middle, they're going to say, "Oh yeah, that's definitely a symbol." But that's not what we're seeing here. These are, if that was true, they would be crossed right here down the middle of the sticks. They're not. They're crossed up here closer to the wound that he's trying to conceal. Same thing goes right here. Look, they're all basically crossing near the wound. Right? Let's cover up the blood with some sticks. Rick was in the military. When you go to purchase, let's say, a hunting jacket or hunting camouflage, what is typically the type of imagery or camouflage that they use? It's basically just images of sticks going across your body. That's it, right? You blend in that way. So if you were walking on this trail up in this area, there's no way you're going to see these girls down here, especially when you're not looking for somebody laying low. And this is kind of down, this is much lower than the area up here where the trail is. Okay, so why Rick is doing all of this weird stuff over here with Libby, Abby, while after she put on Libby's clothes, right? Rick allowed her to do that. Put the clothes on. I'll figure this out. Well, she now has the shoe with the phone in it, right? Rick tells her to sit down right here. Why does he want her to sit right here? Sit there Indian style. She says, okay, sit down. He wants her behind this tree as well. Because when he's done, he plans to kill her, or he's thinking about it. But he remembers dragging her friend, and instead of having to drag her this time, he's going to have her sit there. Sit down right here where that way I don't have to drag you. How does he get her to do all that? Well, he threatens her with a gun, right? Cycles around. That's how the bullet ended up right here. Bullet somewhere in this area. Why is there a phone and a shoe underneath her? Well, Rick allowed her to go over to Libby's pile of clothing, put on her clothes, told her that he needed an opportunity to think. She needs to be quiet, right? Rack the gun. Don't make me use this. She says, okay, sees the phone, hides it. He tells her, sit down right here. She puts the shoe in between her legs, maybe even under, sitting. I want you to picture sitting Indian style, and you're trying to conceal like a shoe under your leg. The phone data shows us that somebody was trying to access the phone at this time. So that's what she's doing. She's sitting there. She got dressed. She put on the pants, put on her shoes, put on the hoodie, has the shoe in her hand, sits down, puts it, hides it, pulls the phone out of the shoe, can't access it. Something's wrong. I think it's wet or something at that point. So to me, I mean, it's very easy just by looking at this to kind of understand what happened. So you would basically have victim one out in the open. Victim two is actually standing up, not laying down at this point. You have her sit behind the tree like this. You would then pull victim one behind this tree the best you could. Right? Drag this big log over here. So it looks like it's kind of at like an angle like that. And then more over here. So the largest stick is going to go across this way to hide her legs. Anybody that might be looking over here. All right. Okay, there you have it. Now, what are you going to do? Here, let me create another layer real quick. Let's just fill this one completely with darkness. Boom. Dark outside. Now, you tell me how you're supposed to see these girls out there. From a bird's eye view. He's down there looking at it and making decisions based off of what he sees. He's like, well, if I stand right here, I can see them. In order to hide them, I need to first move one of them behind the tree, or both of them actually behind the tree. And then any parts of them that are sticking out, I'm going to cover with sticks. That way, if anybody walks by, they're going to miss it. When I see from this angle, it makes even more sense on sleuth theory to cover from private drive. Yeah, it's not just the private drive. He wants to conceal them from the private drive by anybody that might come down the hill where they were, maybe even the bridge. And there's also a trail that kind of cuts close by. But there's no way that anybody was going to be able to see them the way that he didn't cover the bodies, because the people that were searching for the girls aren't flying around in little helicopters, right? Looking down at the girls. They're not. They're walking by, just like Rick would have been, standing there. And if they were standing anywhere near there, he needs to cover or camouflage the crime scene. Right? They're looking for two living girls. They're yelling, Abby, Libby. And don't forget, the entire place is covered with sticks similar to what Rick did. That's why Rick did it. His military expertise came into play here, his knowledge of camouflage. And it worked perfectly. Nobody found the girls until later that day. So you ask, why would he do that? To get him back home. He almost didn't make it home. And I don't think Sarah Carball would have seen him if the timing wasn't just perfect. Never realized the tree, the handprint was that far from Libby's body. Yep, absolutely. Hey, what's up, Lilith? Dark side. They do think he moved one of them some feet. Yeah, it looks like it's almost I don't know if it's 8 feet. I can't remember what was quoted during the trial. For some reason, I remember 8 feet. Also, that first day, the searchers were most likely looking for them to be standing up, not lying down, to explain them being overlooked till the next day. Yeah, to say, oh, they were searching those woods. It's not like they were doing grid searches, right? You just had people randomly who weren't even law enforcement, really, just kind of walking the trails, flashing the flashlights in one direction, scanning the horizon, saying, Abby, Libby, yelling at Abby, Libby, waiting for them to be like, hey, over here, over here. She's hurt. She broke her leg. I didn't want to leave her. They're expecting something like that, or just to get a call while they're out there looking like, hey, we found the girls. They fell asleep. Everybody's hoping that. Nobody's looking for two dead girls, one that's naked and covered with sticks with their throats slit. The only person who could fathom something that disgusting was Rick Allen. Possibly more. But definitely Rick Allen for sure. All right. And I'll catch up on the chat as soon as I get right back. Alrighty. So that's how we will start the conversation. Miss Candy, what up? How you been? Is one naked and one dressed? Yes. What's up, Vicarious? The Vicarious Vigilante. Could probably hear people talking. That was walking on the trail at the time too, I think. Yeah, I assume that you could hear it kind of echoing through the creek. Through the crick. Vix is in the building. What up? Good to see you. Oh, we got Jay Burns. Don't see any significance in this scenario as it appears for moving bodies. Which scenario? Are you referring to Brad and Jennifer's scenario? They were looking for lost, injured, hoping somebody would yell back 100%. That's what I'm thinking. I just don't understand. When people support Richard Allen, this is what they say. One of the main things is the girl should have been out there, right? It goes against the narrative. For whatever reason, their mind cannot wrap around that idea. And the truth is, they don't want to wrap their mind around it because it goes against something that's more fantabulous, fantastical, right? It was Frodo and the rest of the crew involved in this. No way it was just little old Rick working at the CVS. He's not capable of it. Look at how he looks at Kathy. Look at how he looks at her, guys. That's true love. There's no way he did this, right? He drug one a few feet, mostly just to cover. Yep, absolutely. I mean, we can see it. It's right there in front of your face. The only reason now to say Rick isn't an Odinist I mean, we don't know that. Maybe he's into witchcraft or he's some kind of a Satanist. I mean, God forbid a family man would hide something. God forbid a compartmentalized killer would dare hide something from his wife. Oh my gosh. Who could fathom such garbage? You're definitely not looking for them to be deceased already. Absolutely. You have to put your mind into those folks, right? You got to try to see through their eyes, right? You're hopeful. You have no hindsight of anything, right? You're not a time traveler. You have no knowledge of what's going to happen. The news of what happened to Abby and Libby is still being felt across the world. Imagine being in that town. Imagine being part of that search party. Nobody in their right mind would ever suspect something like that was waiting for them in the that following morning. The only person who could fathom something so disgusting is Rick Allen, that we know for sure, right? Lilith, I started thinking the heavy branch was to weigh her down in case she tried to get up after they were gone. I didn't think that till he said to Walla that he waited until they were dead before leaving. Yeah, I wonder if he was just kind of watching them suffer. What's up, Mike Scott? Your mic issues might be CPU overload. If you've got editing software open and loads of tabs, for example. Yeah, I did. I did, Mike. I kind of shut them all down. I don't have a lot of space on my computer either. I'm actually shopping for a new computer. That's why I started selling merch. It's kind of a it's a fundraiser. So I'm just gonna sell a bunch of merch until we can try to get a new computer. It's outdated, but yeah, it's definitely has to do with me being on Wi-Fi and then my computer just not seemingly able to process anything. Richard shouldn't have been out there. I meant the scenario as the crime scene as it was described to the public. Moving the body doesn't seem to have any significance to the motive or anything else. Not worth reading in at this point, in my opinion. Well, the crime scene actually shows that Libby was moved. It's not like they're guessing. Like you can see that she was, she was dragged a short distance. So, in my opinion, it's kind of a fact that she was moved. Question is why. My opinion is the answer is to conceal her. Because that large tree did most of the work, right? If his attempt to conceal them or camouflage them the best he can, he maybe not from a bird's eye view, but that's not how you should be looking at the crime scene. You should be trying to look at it from Rick's point of view, right? What's he looking at? Well, he's asking himself, right? I just got scared away by this van. This van, it scared me. It came from that direction. And also, there's a trail over here. And if anybody decides to come investigate and come down the hill like I did, they would be able to see what I've done. So, what I need to do is hide them behind this tree, right? So they are concealed. At that point, the majority of them is completely concealed. A lot of people are like, well, why didn't they cover them with leaves and this? Why cover them with anything? Nobody's going to be floating over the girls, right? We're not birds. We don't fly up to the top of the trees and look around and be like, oh, hey, you see anything over there, pal? Well, no. Maybe we should fly higher. No, you're looking at things from the ground. That's the way they were concealed from that point of view. KS, what's up? I live on a golf course, and a Navy SEAL search team couldn't find those two little girls out there at night in February. Absolutely. I mean, if you did a grid search, maybe, right? Everybody's like 10 feet apart, 5, 10 feet apart, and you're just scanning this whole grid. That's not what was happening. You just had a group of volunteers who were walking the trails. Nobody was trying to get hurt out there. It was pitch dark. Yep, let alone in those dense woods. All right, Cindy, thank you. Yeah, the beginning of the stream's going to suck for the replay crew. You know, it is what it is. We work with what we got. Think back to all the times my cousin and I went places during the day, explore right near by the homes, the victim shaming in this case. I'm so over it. Yeah, and I hate the fact that it triggers me so much. You know, it really angers me. A lot of people, oh, why are you going against my channel? I get all these private emails. Why'd you block me? Why are you going against me? Out of everybody, I thought you would understand the journalism. What you're doing is not journalism. Going off a whim and then re-victimizing somebody that you have no proof is involved, somebody that was actually victimized by a crime, and then you think you have the right to do that. I'm speaking from experience. You know, when I first started my YouTube channel, I thought that kind of shit was okay. I didn't know any better. It's because you lose sight of what's important. But I've learned a lot. So, yes, I agree. It was a fact, but I don't think it's worth really questioning because there's only a few feet. And exactly, I think it was solely to conceal the body to buy him some time. Well, I mean, think about it. He's in the military, right? He knows about camouflage. So, what's going to be the least calorie burning and the quickest? And what Lilith said kind of makes sense. That could explain why he was like waiting out there. He didn't want to do any more damage, or he wasn't getting any more pleasure from the physical act. He may have just done enough and just sat there and waited for Abby to pass away. And then he's like, okay, now I can leave. Now I know that they can't turn me in, but I just don't have it in me to go over there and attack them again. So that's the best attack that I have. Very violent with Libby because that was probably right after being forced to cross that cold water. If he's willing to cut two kids' throats, he's willing to run through that cold water. So unfortunately, it was Libby that caught the blunt of everything, right? Everything that he had planned to do to them, the sexual assault, the anger that brought him out there, the anger that made him not go with his mom and sister to lunch, but instead to go get fucked up and go out to the trails and commit a murder or a sexual assault is what he had planned. So he was in a very bad place. All of that, I believe, when he was chasing the girls, he took out on Libby. That's why it looks so different from what happened to Abby. All of his anger, his frustration, everything that brought him out there that day was released at that point. And it shows in the explanation during the trial of the wounds. Even at night, people should be able to walk around and not get murdered. Yeah, the thing is that people are running around suffering from mental health issues. There's people out there who are abusing drugs. There's people out there who are fantasizing about committing sexual assaults and murders like Brian Koberger. And somehow their situation puts them in that position to just let these fantasies fester, right? It's like a petri dish. And then all of a sudden, this petri dish, some creature of the Black Lagoon comes crawling out, right? This former shell of themselves. Now you have a Brian Koberger, and he's let loose. The question is he going to target you? Are you going to cross paths with this psychopath? You just never know, right? You have this sexual predator who goes to work every day, normal, every day, never did anything wrong. And then one day you decide to let your kid, you always said you would never let your small child even go to the end of the street and back. But today you say, you know what? Yeah, go ahead, go get the mail. You can go get the mail. And the day you decide to let your child out of your sight for 1 second, here comes this sick piece of shit that has never done anything wrong, just been fantasizing about it, doing weird shit at home, doing, maybe like a Kagan Klein type, and sees your daughter or your son, and for whatever reason, looks around, nobody's around. I'm going to do it. He gets out of his car and just grabs the kid, can't control himself. He's going to commit a sexual assault, not a murder. But once they commit the sexual assault, they cannot stop being paranoid about it. Oh, this person's going to tell on me. I'm going to lose my family. I'm going to lose my job. My life is over. Right? I got to kill this kid. Boom. And then they dump them somewhere random like trash. That's how all of these cases end up. A child found dumped in the woods, sexually assaulted, brutalized, tortured, and it's just some sick piece of shit just like Richard Allen. What happened to Abby and Libby happens to a lot of kids. And it could happen to the most protective families. It could happen to the least. It just happens at random. That's the most terrifying thing to me about true crime is it's just hard to understand. It's like you don't expect your small child to annihilate your entire family. In what world are you waking up, going to your hard job, taking care of your family, and then somewhere you have time to think about a 13-year-old family annihilator living down the hallway? There's no way your mind is ever thinking that. It's so terrifying to me because it can happen to any of us. Because it's something we never expect, even when we're into true crime and we're able to somewhat wrap our minds around it. It's gonna strike. The question is where? And how do you not be there when it does strike? Because you can't prevent it. Because when you see the red flags, even if it's one of your family members, like Brian Koberger and his relationships with his sisters, him walking around with rubber gloves, if there was not an actual high profile murder that you knew just happened in Washington, you wouldn't even be suspicious, right? You'd be like, what the fuck is this dude walking around in these rubber gloves? But you're never going to tip in your own family member, right? And then later that night, he kills you in your sleep and nobody knows who did it, right? It's just always this suspicion, right? Like John Benet Ramsey. Was it the brother? Shh, fuck, I don't know. We'll never know, right? We will never, ever, ever know because it doesn't make any sense. And to the same people that it doesn't make sense to, that's the same group that will never, ever see it coming. At this point, my blood pressure can handle just about anything in this case, but victim shaming, yeah, I hate that I can't just be calm about it. I hate being triggered, uncontrollably triggered. And a lot of people try to play on that. I'm getting better. Cindy says adrenaline running high. He spooked, did what he could in short time. Yeah, the crime scene I think was selected by Abby and Libby. They tried to get away. That just happens to be where they were caught during their attempted escape. It's got us. It's gotten so bad, or is social media bringing more awareness? It's just like everything, Cindy. Good. You have to take the good with the bad, and you also have to get in where you fit in. Right? If you're a re-victimizer, go go be with them. Right? If you think you have things figured out without proof, yet the fact that you have it figured out and you've come to that determination, it's okay to shame these victims or come at these victims. And if they're not willing to talk to you, right? Oh, it's because they have something to hide, right? You owe me an explanation. Still have questions about JP. He said some interesting things during your interview with him. Former military connection to KK, but he could just simply have a connection with Richard Allen. He has talked about slitting people's throats and drinking blood. And if they already have some mental issues, absolutely. Right? Let's say you're at work and somebody says, I'm going to fucking kill you. You go tell HR, hey, this guy just threatened to kill me. They call him in. That's not what I meant. Like, I didn't mean I was going to actually kill him. Okay, well, this is a warning. If it happens again, blah, blah, you know. And then a week down the road, you get your head bashed in with a hammer at work by the same guy who threatened to kill you. In what world are you expecting your coworker to actually follow through with a threat like that? To me, that is the most terrifying thing about true crimes. It's like it warns you. It tells you right to your face, I'm going to sexually assault you, mutilate you, and dismember your body. And then you're like, no, 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 no. It's not possible. That would never happen. This guy's just obsessed with me. You know, he makes threats. He just wants my attention. 2 days later, it actually happens. Right? Especially people who have stalkers. Do not take that shit lightly. If you've had people creeping around your home, call the police. What's up, Red Queen? It's good to see you. How you doing? They do need to have more safeguards for children online. Yeah. I mean, they just need more safeguards in general. What's going on, Luna? He said he wanted to make sure they were dead because he didn't want them to suffer. Yeah, he didn't care about them. Good to see you. It's chaos. Be kind. It's something I constantly think of while reading these crimes to victims and their families. Yeah, because people with severe anger issues, if you fuck with them, it could set them off. You know, you never know when somebody's actually on edge. And some of these people who commit these brutal murders, during their interrogations, they're asked, well, why'd you do it? Oh, I just wanted to see what it was like to kill somebody. Really? Was it what you thought? No, not really. I thought I would have more adrenaline. I thought it would be harder. Then those same people say, well, I thought I was going to be a cop. I was either going to be a cop or a serial killer. And then I started thinking to myself, well, what the fuck's the difference? I was like, Jesus. Especially after I did a lot of these FOIA requests and I got a lot of this body cam footage that I can't even release. There's no way I could release it on YouTube. And some of these returns that I've gotten, and cops don't give a shit. So in America nowadays, I feel like it's not even safe to. I remember when I was young, I would go to the bars, right? I'd go to the bars and I would get smashed. And I would walk home. You know, walk home kind of stumbling, like, ooh. Well, what if What if you can't handle your alcohol and you're just kind of acting a fool and somebody thinks you have a gun, right? They call the cops out there and they say, "Oh, well, he kept reaching for something." Cops show up, they think, they're the biggest adrenaline junkies on the planet is law enforcement. You don't want them anywhere near you or your family while they think they're helping the community, ridding the community of some kind of a nuisance. It's the last thing you need is them coming in hot, right? Sitting around all day like, man, I ain't got no action. And then boom, guy with a gun. We potentially have a guy with a gun, but really it's just some idiot drunk. And they're giving you commands, right? Don't move, don't do this, or you might end up dead. Well, as a drunk person, you're just kind of squirming around on the ground and they tell you not to reach and you go to pull up your pants or something, they're going to kill you. It's a dangerous world we live in. If you had to bet who was at the crime scene, if I had to bet who was at the crime scene, Richard Allen. That's it. What's up, Boston? How you doing? I misworded that. Just to clarify, I'm not reading crimes to victims and their. uh, yeah, it's extremely sad. He destroyed his family and theirs with that choice. Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for his daughter all the time. For all I know, it's already destroyed their marriage. Thank you, Cindy. Okay, so there's really only one other thing I wanted to talk with you guys about, and that is the 244 timestamp where we have Brad Weber's van and we have his neighbor Mr. Sandifer's security camera picking him up, and the timestamp shows 244. Now, for whatever reason, these people that are out there supporting Rick Allen, they like to attack the official narrative and the phone data the best they can. And they always refer to this 244. They say, oh, well, we all know that Brad Weber actually got there at 244. We have the timestamp. But the one thing that they always fail to include during this explanation is that timestamp is 2:44 a.m. So the fact that it's a.m., right, tells us right then and there that it's not the correct timestamp. So how can you criticize the state's timeline and then try to hold your timeline together with that bullshit? To me, that is proof of bias, 100%, and zero consistency. So that's really all I had for you guys. Want to talk about the sticks and the 244 time. So let me know what you think about that in the chat. Let's see what we got going on. What's up, Noah? I think either the Kleins or Ron Logan were also there. Now he asked me that. He asked me if I was going to bet, right? And I'm not a betting man. I don't like gambling. But if I was to bet, that's all my money's on Richard Allen being an opportunistic killer. Everything that was going on in his life. That's why I was trying to explain to you guys how true crime can just cross paths with innocent people. So you have this nightmare wreckage of a situation this recipe for disaster going on over here in Rick's life. Nobody can see the turmoil. Just too much going on. He's like a runaway train. And here comes two innocent kids who are right on the train, right on the tracks of a runaway train. Just by chance. And that's the story when it comes to most of the murders in the United States of America. You have a disaster of a person crossing paths with somebody that he considers a vulnerable target, and somebody's going to pay for their pain, right? Whatever situation they're feeling that's pushing them over the edge, somebody's going to pay for it. They're going to get the control back one way or the other. And they don't give a shit about you or me. Rocketino. The killer is already in jail. Who's that? Richard Allen did this, Dropbox involved. Yeah, that could be the connection right there. Also, I think Rick could just be in the same home as the Kleins at one point and said, oh, yeah, the girls are going to be there. Rick's like, well, I'll go see. But yeah, if you ask me my opinion, the Kleins 100% are involved. There's just no nexus there other than a confession from Kagan Klein. But he doesn't really have any credibility. He's technically a jailhouse snitch. But the only reason he's in jail is because of a search warrant that was served on the Delphi murders. So when it comes to Kagan, it's always going to be a little bit different because he's really the only person to confess to participating in the Delphi murders. And he's the one that created the Anthony Shots account. So, I mean, I just don't know how you could ignore the fact that we've been looking for the Anthony Shots, the guy who was communicating with Abby and Libby the days before up until they were actually killed. They have the guy who actually created the account, and he's confessed to participating in the murders. Nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here. I thought Richard Allen was a given. Who else? I believe at least one Klein. Yeah, I mean, for all we know, the Kleins, along with Rick, told Ron Logan that they were going to go fishing. Right? We're going to go fishing on your property. Yeah, that's fine. And they're like, oh, don't worry. We're going to park at the cemetery. So Ron has knowledge, right, that they're there. Yeah, that's fine. They're out there fishing and they can see the girls on the bridge. Or Kagan's right. He's been communicating with them. So he's trying to lure them out there to kind of match up with their fishing trip. That's why Rick kept talking about, like, I'm a fisherman. I like fish. Where the girls were found looks like a really good fishing spot. That's where Brad Weber goes fishing. That's where, you guys remember Bart? At one point, he was the stepson to Tony Klein. Well, Bart told the murder sheet that Tony Klein used to take him fishing down there by the crime scene. So maybe they were just getting fucked up going fishing. And they're like, hey, let's lure those girls that we were talking to over here to where we're going to be at. I still think there's a whole lot that we don't know. I do believe KK probably set everything in motion somehow and should have at least been charged with murder. Yeah, He was also listed as a confidential informant when they took him out of jail. So even if he did say something to them, we'll never know about it. Some kind of backdoor deal. Kagan Klein will be out of jail one day. It's scary. I don't think so. I think Kagan Klein's going to die in jail. He doesn't have the best DNA. I see that prison food taking him, let's say he's got about 10 years, 10, 15 years on him if he doesn't get shanked first. What's up, Frankmeister? Noah, I heard rumors that Ron Logan was into CP. Don't know if it's true. Yeah, that comes from Reese Davis saying that the Kleins used to set up like burner phones with child pornography on it and things like that, and then sell the phones to people like Ron Logan and Richard Allen. Yeah, I kind of wondered if he did with the feds, maybe, or 40-year probable was the deal. Yeah, I mean, think about it. Rick Allen got 130 years, right? Kagan should be happy with less than half. Yeah, diabetes. Diabetes gonna get KK. Diabetes. He's gonna be walking around all nubby. Nubby and chubby. All right, guys, we are going to be going live again a little bit later tonight. I think we might just hang out, do a quick check-in, and give you guys an opportunity to kind of just address anything or any issues that you have with the channel, any cases that you might want to talk about. We can talk about some merch. We can talk about cases that we have coming up in the future. I've submitted over the last like 2 months probably 100 different FOIA requests. So we're hoping that that's going to fuel our 2026, and we'll have a lot of information to offer to you on a lot of high profile cases. And hopefully we can present them to you in a way that you guys find entertaining and also thoughtful. So hopefully I'll see you there. Time and opportunity. He said he looked angry, like he was on a mission. He told on himself. Nobody else was described as wearing the same outfit. I think that was my favorite part of Tom Webster's debate. Baldwin said, "In what world would you ever go and call the police after you've committed a murder?" Right? And Tom quickly put it into perspective. Well, if you're sitting there with your wife and your wife knows that you were on the trails and she tells you that you need to, if you say no, it's going to draw attention to yourself. So that's what Tom explained to Baldwin, and all you heard was crickets. I was like, really, all we were seeing was somebody presenting common sense, right? Presenting nothing but common sense and factual information, getting it wrong here and there. He admitted when he got things wrong. He's like, yeah, I fucked up right there. I got that wrong. It happens. We're not perfect. So that's the way it should be done. I'll take money he's not making it to Valentine's Day. Hey, Biggie Fishy. Biggie, Biggie, Biggie. Biggie, Biggie Fishy. Can't you see? It's crazy that murdering a child in Indiana is only 60 years. Imagine if a young person, say 18, committed the crime. They would be out before turning 80. Yeah, it's terrifying. They're very lenient on people, especially pedophiles and violent criminals. They don't give them shit. They give them a slap on the wrist. All right, guys, that's going to do it. Thanks for hanging out. Replay crew, sorry about the beginning of the stream being all screwed up. My bad. Got some issues with my computer. But if you want to help out, come check out the fundraiser later. Go cop some merch. Consider becoming a member. And if you can't do any of those things, don't stress about it. Just hit the like button. Maybe go share a video on X or leave a comment. But either way, make sure you hit the thumbs up on the way out. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.